Secretary of State Blinken speaks about need for LGBTQ+ worldwide rights.
We're meeting at a time when the movement for equality is showing some encouraging momentum. A few examples. This summer, St. Kitts and Nevis and Antigua and Barbuda became the latest governments to decriminalize homosexual acts. A month ago, the government of Vietnam announced that homosexuality, bisexuality, and transgender identity cannot be considered illnesses, and that LGBTQI+ people cannot be subjected to so-called conversion therapy. At the same time, for that progress, which is real and which is worth underscoring, we know that people worldwide continue to experience alarming levels of violence, discrimination, isolation. Risks are the highest for people with disabilities, people of color, refugees, and LGBTI+ women. Transgender people are often denied access to legal identity documents that reflect their names and gender markers. Intersex people, including minors, continue to be subjected to unnecessary surgeries without their consent. All countries, including those of us in the Core Group, have work to do to ensure that LGBTI+ people have the same rights, the same protections as all other people. Defending these rights is central to the health of our democracies. Any system where some groups are treated as less than simply because of who they are is fundamentally flawed. Standing up for LGBTI+ people is a top priority for our administration.
Secretary of State Antony Blinken spoke at an LGBTQ+ and intersex rights event on Monday. The event took place on the eve of the UN General Assembly. While giving his remarks at LGBTI Core Group, he noted that the meeting is taking place at the right time when the movement for equality has gained encouraging momentum. He pointed to the decriminalization of consensual same-sex acts in St. Kitts and Nevis and Antigua and Barbuda. He also noted the recent announcement made by the Vietnamese Health Ministry saying it is no longer considers LGBTQ+ people to be sick. He also encouraged that people across the world continue to experiencing alarming levels of violence, discrimination, and isolation. Blinken said, risks are the highest for people with disabilities, people of color, refugees, LGBTQI women, and LGBTQI women. Transgender people are often denied access to legal identity documents that reflect their names and gender markers. Intersex people, including minors, continue to be subjected to unnecessary surgeries without their consent, end quote. President Biden, in February of 2021, signed a memo that committed the U.S. to promote LGBTQ+ and intersex rights abroad as part of his administration's overall foreign policy. The White House, 4 months later, appointed Jessica Stern as its special envoy for the promotion of LGBTQ+ and intersex rights overseas. Well, it's interesting that around the world, we're getting more rights and equity is advancing, but here in the U.S., we feel like we're taking steps backward and backward. And
why do you think that's happening?
I think it's like a pendulum. I believe it happens.
To your specific point that you see expansionist rights around the world and voices, but we are seeing a retrenchment in America. Any feelings as to why?
Well, perhaps it's that, America had done it initially, and other countries perhaps looked at us and looked at other countries who were more progressive as well and said, you know what, this is what we should be doing, and recognized that was progress.
The advances you're seeing across the globe are coming because those communities are fighting, they're advocating, they're sacrificing, they're dying. Here in America, we go to pool parties. Right. And until that changes, we're done for, and that's why I say things are so dire. We've lost the oomph to fight. It's easier to just go along because the Proud Boys are outside than it is to
I just hope we don't have to do this bullshit in another 30 years. You know, I mean, we did this
I'm worried
before.
about 4 months from now.
Yeah, exactly.
No.
I believe everything has become commercialized. Everything has become, America has a culture that does not prize anything from the spirit. Right now, it's all about money. It's all about capital gain. Even being LGBTQ doesn't feel like it did before, like it's something authentic. It just feels like I'm a package now. I come in a nice package deal. Everything comes in a package deal. And so therefore, everybody has now treated it as such, even those within the community.
I was going to say, I have to agree with Scott too, is that, you know, you look at like an example, it's the election season and trying to find people that are, I've gone out and with SAVE doing, you know, door knocking in the middle of August. It's not a fun thing to do. No. It's hot, it's, you know, but if you look at a pool party or events that are going on and they're filled with people that seem to have plenty of time on a Saturday or Sunday too. Right. And it's not to critique people enjoying themselves, of course not, but our rights are on the line. This is not just a, oh, let's get my candidate elected. Yeah. This is your ability to have that pool party might be taken away. Right. And your ability to be present in our culture as who your authentic self is might be taken away.
You know, it's such a good point. And to my question that I asked you, Cindy, the reason I make the connection of what we're seeing in other places in the world, especially as example, the European Union. The European Union has stood up to Belgrade over the weekend on Europride, and Serbia backed down to the whim of and desire of the Union because their admission to the Union was greater than their religious zealotry against LGBT. A $4.5 billion penalty has been announced on Hungary and Poland in terms of their civil rights rejections. And now Hungary is going to have to decide, can we live without this and the European Union to justify our religious zealotry and hatred, our state-sponsored hatred? Every indication to me currently says the European Union is going to win. Poland will lose, Hungary will lose, Serbia will lose. That's going on in Europe. My question is, well, when Blinken is talking about, the Secretary of State is talking about the worldwide expansion, what we saw in Vietnam, what we saw in the Caribbean, and the motions, etc. The reason we're not seeing this, we don't have the same feel here, is the actions here are not because of religious freedom. They're not because of radical religious zealotry. They are because they are the best way to win elections. And because they're the best way of winning elections, and because they want to win more than we do, because they want to put people on the Supreme Court more than we do, they are going to work harder to get what they want. And that's the proof of it. And it started to get implemented in 2015 with Donald Trump. And to bring Trump and the Supreme Court to him and the administration of the White House to them so they could make more money. The corporate mentality of the gigantic tax breaks could come. They want to win the election. And the best way for them to win the election is to do the strategy that we're watching and unfolding. And we have not responded to it in the way we needed to respond to it. Right. So our advocacy organizations are getting their asses kicked, frankly. And we are not winning. And even Miami-Dade County, where a year ago, if we'd said, okay, thank you very much for having LGBT History Month in October on a 7-1 decision, 12 months from now, you're going to vote exactly the opposite. Everyone would have said to the anchors of Queer News Tonight, that is impossible, you're an idiot now. And I'm sitting here now. That's the reason why Blinken's words are so important of what we're seeing around the world, but not here.
Exactly.
Because they want to win elections, which is why your comments are so important. And why? Because of money, which is why your comments are so important. And the elected official sitting at the table going, I'm ringing an alarm bell. It's a 5-alarm fire now. And no one's going to answer the alarm.
Absolutely.
Sorry. LGBTQ plus news is vital for our community and for the broader world as a whole. We have enough enemies at Fox News. Tucker, Sean, and Lara are loud. We need passionate allies. Happening Out Television Network, Queer News Tonight, and It's Happening Out are literally out of the closet and into the headlines. Our community needs your support. Like this broadcast and subscribe now to ensure the growth of the entire LGBTQ plus community.